Great. Right. Okay. So, welcome to Rebel with a Cause at this episode. So, today I'm chatting with Rachel Maria Bell. I'm very excited to delve into the topics of, we're going to talk about truth and, yeah, patriarchy, basically. Um, and so, yeah, are you okay to sort of introduce yourself a little bit, Rachel, and see where we go from there?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting me on here to talk about all my favorite things. So, for the last 6 years, I've worked professionally as an astrologer, and I've really focused on working with what I would say is light workers, people who've got like big soul missions, multidimensional, aware, awake, really here to like change things up and disrupt things. And then I feel like this is kind of a segue to lead into today, but I mean, astrology is like my mode of choice, my framework of choice. It gives us access to the whole sky, to the whole like what's everybody doing everywhere. But I also feel that it comes with so many misunderstandings. I've actually kind of rebranded to move astrology almost into the background, even though it's such a big part of what I do. I think
Mhm.
that there can be so many misconceptions that I'm now more leading with. Right, you're a multidimensional person. You've got massive, big, complex soul mission. You feel like you're mispositioned. I help you untangle all that. And I think that's more accurate around what I do and really working with the unseen because it's not just astrology. Pretty much my whole life revolves around competence in areas that have no expression or that other people can't see or for which there's no frame of reference. And that's hard because it's wide open to for people to call bullshit on it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think that's where how our conversation. I was thinking back to how, when we first started talking about having this conversation, I was reaching out and talking about how I'd kind of my very, I've like just literally sort of dipped my toe in the world of astrology and was just absolutely blown away by, oh my God, that makes perfect sense to me. Just having a natal chart done and having then a few readings and then and then it really got me thinking to how come, until now, this has all been so sort of closed off for me. And yeah, so just sort of sharing that, like that little tiny little revelation that, hold on a minute, I was really closed to this, now I'm open. And yeah, that's when I kind of reached out and you sort of responded. And I remember you sort of, sort of really kind of, yeah, it really hit home to me how your journey has been so much about you knowing that you've got these gifts and you've been sort of told to hide them essentially and then feeling shame attached to them and all that sort of, is that a fair
I would
representation?
say it's like constant wondering. So for me, and of course, like everybody has their own journey with different things, certain things depending on what our life has been, what our upbringing was, what we've been exposed to, what we hear is acceptable or not, and all of that conditioning is quite varied for all of us, because I've done a lot of safe space holding for, groups of women who want to talk about their particular journeys. And it's so fascinating that some people will be like, oh, yeah, I've been doing tarot since I was a kid. My mum does it. Whereas for somebody else, it might be so taboo.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it really does depend on what's going on. Whereas for me, I had the ability to see, and what I would say is reassemble soul energies into the physical incarnation, and that's quite clear for me. And I had that from forever, really. But
Right.
I remember being starkly confronted by it when I saw Mother Mary aged 5. And I was like, whoa, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Should I be seeing her? And it may be that I did bring that to my parents and they were like, whoa, no, no, we don't say that. I
Yeah.
can't remember, but there was definitely a this is how we behave and this is what we say, and it's all very, very mainstream. So for
Hmm.
me, I was left with a lot of wondering because my reality didn't match up with how everybody else said the world worked.
Hmm.
So it led to just almost constant hypervigilance, kind of in this confusion and wondering and cognitive dissonance all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, astrology was acceptable. So my parents were like, yeah, that's okay. We can buy you astrology books at the same time as never, holding space or supporting about seeing extra stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess through what? Through maybe a fear or a lack of understanding on their part, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So my dad actually passed away in 1998, so I can't ask him. I mean,
Yeah.
I do communicate with him, but my mum is still quite non-reflective and would rather not talk about these things really.
Sure.
That's just how it is. So sorry, what was the question again?
I asked you if, yeah, it was, but you thought that was through fear, but that they
Oh
had been
yeah.
pushed away, or
Yeah.
not
Sorry.
understanding, or yeah,
Yeah, so both grandmas were actually really quite gifted. So Irish grandma on dad's side, very much like, hey, I just saw somebody walk through the wall kind of thing.
yeah,
But she got called senile. And I was like, so as a child, it didn't really make sense because it's like, well, if grandma's suffering with something that's to
yeah,
do with her old age, why can I see these people as well?
yeah. That must have been so confusing for you. Yeah,
Yeah, so I kind of feel that I've got both grandma's energies coming through, but then both parents maybe just didn't quite get why their mums were so wide open, so
hmm,
they shut it down, and therefore, and then it came magnified through me, and they were like, "Wow, we don't know what to do with you."
yeah,
Shut it down again because it was more
mm,
important to them to, fit in and conform with society. That worked for them.
yeah, yeah.
It
No,
doesn't work for all of us.
no, no, that's right. And it is interesting that whole, like you say, the your conditioning and sort of what is acceptable and what is yeah, normal or sort of welcomed, isn't it? Because I think I'd probably shared when I, like I say, this, my introduction to astrology, and then me suddenly, like tracing it back and thinking, where would have this have would this have been shut down, and talking to my dad about it, and lightheartedly, and him thinking that he might have a slightly more open-minded approach now, but I no, no, don't be silly, he shot me down. Don't be ridiculous, and then straight
Wow.
away it was like, oh yeah, yeah, I was right, yeah, that's kind of why, do you know what I mean? I've, not it just would have yeah, stunted any curiosity at that point, sort of thing. Right, that's not even worth looking at, do you know what I mean? Let that door shut.
Yeah,
um
exactly. It
which
is. It's like a mental block that it's just like a door that just goes, well, we're not
yeah,
looking at that then. We can't go
exactly.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But so for you then, the whole when you kind of like, so you've got these, and so I suppose, even, well, asking the question really, if when at the point when it's very early on in your life, you're very, very receptive, you're obviously, you're seeing these things, you're experiencing all this, literal sort of magic sort of thing, and you and then are told by your sort of caregivers no, 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 we don't do that, shut that
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Are you still then experiencing, is it, there's a need for you to be open, or was it a case that it would
So,
dampen?
so some experiences were okay and loving and nice, and I could sense, and bear in mind, this is only what one child can process in her own mind, because I don't bring it to anybody
Yeah,
in
you
case
got
I'm
no
bad
rest.
or wrong.
Yeah.
So within my own mind, I could kind of sense, there's a good feeling here, and I like this feeling. But
Yeah.
then other times I would start going, oh, should I be seeing this? What's going to
Right.
happen to me? Am I bad?
Oh,
Yeah. So
that must
because
have been hard.
I know. And then, yeah, there were, I think it was that tuning into my own truthful feeling state. Sometimes I would communicate with spirit and think, oh, that's lovely. It's like I've got the joy. I wasn't really
Yeah,
articulating it to myself, but that's really how it felt. But other times I was like, oh, what am I saying now?
yeah.
It just depended what the message was that was coming through. But for me, what I did was I just bottled it all up. So it was like I would go over and over and over it in
Hmm.
my mind, like obsessively, like, why am I seeing that? Why am I seeing that? All these unanswered questions. And that didn't start to get processed until I was 33. So, I mean, that is a long time to squirrel it all away.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Big. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, this sort of like I say, sort of a closed approach to, when you think that it's basically only welcoming parts of you, isn't it, that are, sort of socially acceptable or whatever. Um,
Yes.
and your sort of, clairvoyancy, or your gifts essentially
Yeah.
are, yeah, like I say, being yeah, sort of shut down and not welcomed. They're kind of like, you've been told that that bit is wrong, or that
Yeah.
must be so hard. Yeah.
I think it's hard because there's also at the same time other other stories that sound more scary and that are genuinely fear-based. So ghost stories. So if you
Hmm.
think about like in folklore, we've got ghost stories or warnings of things, or even like warnings about witches. And you grow up with this kind of stuff. And even on Halloween, you've been dressing up and have a scary mask, and that's a witch. A rubber mask of a scary person, it's
Yeah.
totally not our concept of what a witch
Exactly.
is now, right? But when you grow up being brainwashed into that, you know that it seems like there's potentially going to be quite a terrifying outcome, but nobody talks about what that is. It's all just shrouded in
Mhm.
mystery and fear and terrible low vibrational stuff, mixed in with a bit of titillating ghost story. But actually, for a child like me, I was like, I even lost my shit when I found out that the truth fairy wasn't real. Because I was like, parents lie to children about a fairy coming in to take your tooth and leave money. I'm
Yeah.
trying to process so much stuff here.
Yeah.
What are you telling me?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess when you've got your gifts, that could be real, couldn't it?
Totally. Yeah.
Like, because I've dealt, this is a little bit off, but it's not off subject, but it's something that's interesting for me recently, that I've really kind of become, it's quite sad, become an awareness that I had awareness that I don't think I've really had belief in fairy tales and things like that from little. It's almost like my upbringing has been really quite real the whole time. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so the opposite. So something like me having a realization of the tooth fairy and the like, it's like, oh yeah, well that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? There's no bubble's been burst in a way, but for you, that would imagine be the complete opposite sort of thing, because
Yeah.
yeah, you're exposed to so much more, yeah, beyond what we see, do you know what I mean, in everyday life, as it were.
Exactly. It's like I actually need some support for this like galactic communication with the blue beings in the trees, and you're making up stories about a bloody tooth fairy instead. Like there's no comprehension, and it's like the actually being in the presence of Mother Mary. It was like
Yeah.
such a massive transmission to hold as a child. And at the same time, all you've got available is some like crappy little ghost stories. No comprehension. There's no way to match it up.
Yeah. That's like insulting, isn't it? It's like yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's really yeah, that's so big. Um, so at what point did you, as you get to a point where, like you mentioned 33, I think you said, where you kind of like started to, you start to process, and you start to sort of like, no more, you know, I know these things are, you need to, yeah, denying a big truthful part of you, aren't you, by kind of not living in alignment with them, I presume. Yeah.
Yes, so there were two major events. So when I was 22, I was violently attacked. And as a clairvoyant, I saw the full technical horror. It wasn't just the attack, which would have been bad enough, but I saw other stuff,
Right.
like the galactic attack. And I was, I mean, I can't even find words to articulate, and I kind of don't want to. I've reached a point where there's no value to me of sounding like a one-woman Ted Bundy show, except afterwards I'm somehow alive. I'm not going there. Oh, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But I got the galactic version. After that, I shut down completely because I needed all my resources to put one foot in front of the other and just survive.
Hmm.
So I shut down all of my intuition and everything. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. And I understand why. Anybody would have been with no support. But it was
Hmm.
like everything collapsed, like my whole upbringing and education and everything. I'd had a loving family. Yes, unsupported gifts, but it was like everything disintegrated all at once. And I
Hmm.
was living on a totally different plane of existence to everyone else. I felt like that.
Hmm.
So even any attempts at just living life felt really hard work. And I had no support. I didn't go to the police. I didn't tell anybody because I think on some level I felt like my truthful account, it would have been too hard to say because it might have come out like, and this is what I saw.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And it would have been mocked, shut down, or whatever. So it was survival. I mean, we live
Hmm.
in a world where they ask, what was a woman wearing? Not what else did she see? Right. So on so many levels, it was like you're just stuck. You can't do anything. So to say that I'd bundled up 22 years of life and shut everything in the closet of just like curious wondering, plus my astrology, because like astrology helped me. So astrology was my self-help from the age of 16. I was like, by reading books on astrology and by delving into it, it was like I could just about understand enough of life to get by.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's kind of running concurrently to the other visionary experiences. But then I shut down, and it wasn't until the age of 33 when I had a miscarriage. And I miscarried, maybe about 10 weeks. But the child I've been carrying, or rather the spirit baby, was like really talkative. And, and I heard her. So I was like communicating with her, and it was wonderful. It was like I was totally imbued with joy, and all of my gifts came back. And then when I miscarried her, I really felt like she'd given me this reawakening from
Hmm.
the inside out. And
Hmm.
from that point, it wasn't, I mean, sometimes I say I had a spiritual awakening. I've never not been awakened.
Yeah.
You know, I either had, you're able to say this or you're not. Um, but from the age of 33, I made a decision. And that decision was, oh, all the things I ever received were actually correct. And this is a gift rather than a hindrance. And I get to trust myself. I get to use this. This
Hmm.
is like my power rather than my disempowerment. So it was like I had a complete and utter revolution.
Yeah.
And life couldn't ever be the same again because it was such an overhaul. And of course, I then had to go back because I had 33 years worth of experiences to untangle. And
Mm.
so that's now 14 years since that. And it's been a big journey, and sometimes I hear people kind of going, oh, you don't need to be healing forever. Well, actually, I did need 14 years of healing. Actually, it was pretty big and it was pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Must have
And I
been.
don't regret a single second of it
Mm.
because as you're doing the healing, it's happening on every level all at the same time. What's held within you, the energy, the body, the mind, the spirit, the deconditioning, the why does everybody believe this when this is reality? What's going on? Who's safe, who's not? There's so much
Mm.
to process.
Yeah.
And what I found was, for my own part, every time I would unpack something, it was like I was doing something on an individual level that also had a meaning on a macro collective level.
Wow. Right.
So
Yeah.
it was like going through a pattern, the whole, oh, this thing that marked me out as being individual. Oh, look, we have access to the internet. It turns out other people go through this as well.
Right. Yeah.
But, peeping through the veils and kind of going, no, okay, so nobody in my family talks about this. All right. Nobody in my friendship groups talks about this. Okay. Nobody at playgroup talks about it. It's like,
Yeah.
where can I find people? Oh, we have the internet.
Hmm.
So,
You
yeah,
find your tribe then, yeah, and then that's where you,
eventually and
yeah,
slowly.
eventually, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and it's so. I mean, we've talked about before, about sort of like the wounds type thing, and you touched on it before, and that's like for me, again, it's I'd kind of not that long ago, probably about 6 months ago, I'd been introduced to a podcast by a friend said, "Oh, I think you should listen to this," and that touched on the witch wound. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, I kind of like I knew about the witch wound and had not really sort of thought there's something in that, but I was feeling really kind of shut down, and like kind of wasn't feeling that I could get my messaging quite, I'd get so far and then I'd retreat back again and I would kind of have another go. Anyway, listening to this podcast and it really hit home to me. It was just like, and I had this huge sort of physical reaction, emotional reaction where I'm just sobbing and raging and like, just to a 35-minute podcast that I'd kind of like just stumbled across.
Yeah.
And that invited me to like kind of start thinking, right, hold on a minute, what is all this about, and this silencing and this yeah, this kind of like this obviously ancestral wounding that, so many of us, are walking around with and not realizing that's what it is, where you're just shut down and like I say, sort of silenced. I mean, on for your scale, I mean, I'm sort of thinking that mine must be, I'm putting it down to ancestral. I mean, there's bits in my life that I can identify as being, do you know what I mean? When I trace back, it's like, oh yeah, around that age, I was, persuaded to go to university instead of, sort of being able to go into, floristry, for instance, or whatever. These little tiny, small little bits, but it's basically undermining what felt right for me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you sort of think, oh, that's nothing big, do you know what I mean? It's obviously impacted my life, as it were.
Yeah.
But when you think about ancestral, then it's like, hold on, this is more, this is like something lying on top of something else. So
Yeah.
this is, that's why I could feel a real resonance with this, description of the witch wound sort of thing. But
Yeah.
for you, I'm imagining, you can resonate, and yeah, well, can
And
you?
then some.
And exactly, that's what I was just.
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me like I honestly, I know there's been a lot of people talk about the witch wound. I know there's a lot of work, brilliant work being done and has been done over the past, you know, certainly couple of decades maybe, or more recent past. But my goodness, it only scratches the surface of what it really is.
Mm,
Um, Ancestrally, collectively, nationally, politically. Oh, the number of systems that hold that stranglehold of political power.
mhm.
It's like you're there forever pulling the strands apart from it. It's everywhere and compacted, complicit. And I get very much I like to go into the history of what has caused this.
Yeah,
And so many of the burning of the witches, or sometimes they were hung and burnt at the same time. When we say witches, we're talking about wise women.
yeah,
women with skills,
Hmm.
women who knew how to heal, wise elders of the communities, teachers, herbal healers, practitioners, handy women, everything that's a natural, intuitive skill. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just dragged to the top of a local mound and publicly executed, and then all of her apprentices or whoever, or the
Hmm.
coven, all of them publicly executed. But it's not just that. I feel like I've got a specialism in male on male spiritual violence
Okay, right.
and how much of a stranglehold that is. I feel like, because, there are so many women doing the witch wound work. I feel like there's enough of us who got it.
Yeah,
So
that's right. Yeah.
I kind of dug deeper. And yeah, I actually feel that there are, I think we talked about the monk wound and we talked about the astrologer wound.
Yeah, you touched on that with me in your voice notes. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
as a particular thing. Now, I would love to just, I made a few notes about notable astrologers from history who were
Okay,
publicly executed, because I think it really, if it's okay for me to just go through some of these stories,
please
because
do.
there's such an entanglement with nonsense that gets thrown at them as well. And I think that's why there's this, a lot of it spans into it, but I think this is why there's such a fear of and a misunderstanding of astrology and what on earth is it?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And trying to untangle that. As an astrologer, I do feel like part of my role is untangling that. So, one lady, and excuse my not very great Italian pronunciation here, but Gentile Budrioli, 1498, Italian astrologer and herbal healer. So we've got a well-educated woman who was educated at the University of Bologna. She became, so we've got herbal healing at the same time as astrology, and she trained with Franciscan friars as well. So monks were often herbal healers, and they were, men who understood how to work with the land, commune with God, help heal, and
Hmm.
practice, medical things. So she trained with them as well as in what she believed was a science of astrology.
Hmm.
um, she was a what happened was she had a rise into power because she was a close friend of the ruler of Bologna's wife. So
Right.
because she was around power, she had this rise to fame and suddenly started to become an astrologer to the court. And throughout history, kings, emperors, politicians, they have had astrologers always because they know the power of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
wanted to win their wars. They wanted things to go right for them in their land. Yeah,
Yeah.
they wanted as much money as possible, etc. They wanted to marry their sons off to the most eligible daughter or whatever. So they're consulting astrologers. Um, so she was accused of witchcraft. So the fact that she is both an astrologer and a herbal healer, she gets accused of witchcraft and handed over to the Inquisition, who make up evidence and torture her. And she was hanged and burned alive simultaneously in front of a crowd. So this is a whole crowd of people saying, don't get too big for your boots,
Yeah.
mixing up healing and witchcraft and astrology. So it becomes a bundle. Oh, it's all just together. It's all
Yeah. So
just
there's an
together.
association now that, yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So astrology is the same as witchcraft, even though we've got what, like the King James Bible written by, I mean, King James also wrote a book called Demonology, which was demonizing witches at the same time as, like, the court was using astrologers. I mean, you're like, wait a minute,
Oh,
what's
gosh,
right,
how
what's wrong?
critical. Yeah, that's right.
The level of, oh, I'll use that because it suits me, and I won't use that, and I'll tell everybody to demonize these people because they've got too much power. Right. I mean, it's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
everywhere. Um, And then if we move to battles, so this little story is owing thanks to my stepdad who reads a lot of history. Thanks, Dave. So the Battle of Crecy, 1346. This is part of the Hundred Years' War. It's French against England. So France against England. The French king consults his astrologer for the timing, the date, and tell me. So the king is like asking his astrologer, are we going to win the battle? Now,
Mhm.
absolutely terrible question to ask an astrologer. Astrology can't predict that. Astrology cannot say what actually helps win a battle. Tactical advantage, military prowess. Are you higher than somebody on a hill or not? Is it going
Yeah,
to rain and they're all going to slip in the mud and they can't do it anyway? And the horses drown. Do you know what I mean? The
yeah, yeah.
astrologer doesn't have access to that. The English won that particular battle primarily because the longbowmen were just better.
Right.
But the astrologer to the French king got executed.
Oh, Christ.
So it's like that sends a massive warning to everybody. Just don't do
Yeah,
astrology. Don't ever do
yeah,
astrology, whatever you do.
yeah,
So it's my point is it's like handed down like, oh, astrology's bad. Oh, you
yeah.
get murdered for astrology. Yeah.
Totally, totally.
Get murdered by people in power.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, Roger Bolingbroke, he was an English astrologer and scholar, again executed for high treason and witchcraft. So again, it all gets bundled into one. Now, here we start to get the topic of necromancy. So, necromancy is the practice of communicating with the dead, especially in order to predict the future. Now, here is where we've got a big problem that I can answer from my own beliefs and from what I can do and see.
Mhm.
Because if we're talking about communicating with the dead, doesn't that just sound really scary?
Yeah, yeah,
Rather than, I mean, it actually you imagine somebody getting out of a grave in a
yeah,
really
yeah,
hideous, frightening way,
yeah.
right? As opposed to when you have the stellar gateway open, which exists at the 12th chakra, which is
Mhm.
about a foot and a half above your head. It gives you access to ninth dimension or well higher than fifth dimensional source connection. So it's
Okay.
basically connected to the stars, stellar gateway. Now this gives you access to and I can see it, so I can, can see this. It gives you access to your soul's origin. So your
Mhm.
oversoul. So you start to remember your other lifetimes. So you can see other past or present or future or whatever lifetimes. It's access as though this is outside of the linear frame of reference of time. So
Mhm.
you've got like this, I mean, it's what I think is like the vertical access, almost like the cross of Christ consciousness. It's like that vertical access is that, whoo, I'm connected to that soul level
Mhm.
ability. And when I do readings for people, I actually physically see this. So I go into a state where I'm seeing I call it their golden soul imprint. It's like the golden soul of their original incarnation. So I'm seeing and revealing their highest potential to raise the frequency of how they've been playing the tune of their chart.
Mhm.
Really, because your chart, you get to live your chart. Your chart's
Yeah,
not telling you, it's not telling you this is what's going to happen a week next Tuesday. It's telling you, here's what you incarnated with. You can play it like Beethoven's da 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 da, or you can really go,
yeah.
yeah, and really burst into your highest potential. But at that same place, you've also got access to see other souls in their other incarnations. So I can connect with other people's like oversouls, which is why if I'm communicating aged 5 and above with the with the soul that once lived as Mother Mary, then it's like I'm having a transmission with her oversoul now But it just so happens that my third eye reassembles that into Mother Mary, so I know who I'm dealing with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all it is. So I think that these notable astrologers of their era, I think that's what they were doing. This isn't necromancy at all.
Mm. No. Yeah. Can see how there's been.
It's
Yeah.
being demonized,
Yeah.
but actually it's having this like oversoul connection with other times and places and able to communicate outside the normal perceptual range of time. Literally that.
Amazing. Yeah. And then just sort of, yeah, reframing or demonizing it into something that would be scary because yeah, if you can't do that yourself and you can't control it, then
Yes.
we need to shut it down. And how do we shut it down? We just make it scary and we make it, yeah,
And we
or
kill people.
associated with, death, as in yeah, we will kill you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so there's another one that's even like this whole story is even more scary, but it's very much on this line of the whole necromancy thing. John Lamb, again, we're talking about England. So English astrologer who worked for George Villiers, who was the first Duke of Buckingham. They both died in 1628. And George Villiers was like a favourite of King Charles I. And we know that he got executed as well. So this is in a time of political unrest.
Yeah.
And we're heading towards the English Civil War. Now, this guy called himself Dr. Lamb, but he was not a licensed physician. So now we enter the quackery, right? Also associated with astrology because of
Yeah.
famous Dr. Lamb.
Thank you.
Right, so hard not to roll my eyes here. So he could do such a massive range of things. And who's to say what was authentic and what wasn't? I mean, he might have been practicing some really authentic gifts at the same time as black magic. Who's to say?
Mhm.
Because what was said about him was so outlandish that all becomes like you'd best just not do that. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're going to get called all this stuff. So he could do reading fortunes, identifying diseases, repelling witchcraft. But he's been accused of witchcraft. He could locate missing and stolen items with his crystal ball. My favourite is in 1626. He apparently, I can't say it without laughing. He caused a whirlwind that went along the Thames, which allegedly unearthed corpses from a graveyard.
What?
So, if people think that an astrologer can unearth corpses from a graveyard,
Wow.
it's no wonder that it's embedded in English psyche. Best not practice astrology, right?
Like, yeah. Yeah.
And these stories get handed down, and this fear gets handed down. So then he was accused of raping a child. Right, so this is totally and utterly nothing to do with raising corpses, witchcraft, or astrology. This is on a whole different level. Do
Mm.
we ever find out whether he does it? We've no idea because he's having so much hurled at him. So he's accused of raping a child, sentenced to the death penalty, but before he's executed, a crowd throws stones at him and stones him to death.
God.
This is our history. Welcome to bloody England.
Yeah.
Right? It's horrendous. And then George Villiers, who he used to advise, he died about 2 months later. Again, he was stabbed, I think. Yeah, stabbed. So he was executed. Um, and then much later, his ex-servant was hanged for witchcraft. According to rumors at the time, she could summon demons and listen to this, she could transform herself into a dog, a lion, a bear, a wolf, or a monkey. Hey, throw
Wow.
everything at her.
That's quite a skill set, isn't it?
In fact, she was just a servant.
God.
Sheesh. So, I mean, this is just England.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like you say, it's no wonder then, is it, that this association, then anything is so you're just like, oh no, 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 we don't do that. You
Yeah.
can totally see how that would, yeah, pass down through the generations, isn't it? And then have this what we have now. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's yeah, it does. But and I feel like it's really well, it is. It's so important to have this awareness of what's gone before us, isn't it? Other to be able to sort of track that back and have this, like I say, awareness of an ancestral wounding, isn't it? And then you sort of like, yeah, this isn't just necessarily this lifetime that that this is associated with. It's come from way before. Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
And of course, people in positions of power have always used astrologers. They always will because they know that it's a really powerful tool. The problem is they don't want the public knowing about that because guess what? It gives us all equal access to power, the same
Yeah.
power.
Mm,
Nobody gets more planets than another. We've,
yeah.
we've all
Yeah.
got equal access.
So that's just going to, yeah, sort of equalize this all out, which is not what they want. Yeah, they want it all back.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
actually, astrology as a practice is incredible for the age of Aquarius because it is a great equalizer. We all have a birth date and
yeah,
time. Nobody
yeah,
gets two. You don't get three. You got this one life and this one powerful chart and
yeah,
all of the other charts that you can cast.
yeah.
And you get to really understand deeply that self-mastery piece and
Hmm.
work with the portion that you were given.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I can really relate to that. Like, because I did, yeah, I had my first natal chart read when I was coming to 50. And I don't really know. I think Tina, my friend, would have guided me and suggested it. And I was like, oh, right, okay, whatever, I'll have a go, sort of thing. And I was to play the call back, because it was done on Zoom. I was just in a state of shock because it was almost like she was like, kind of, it was like she knew me, she was, the things that she was saying to me, I could just relate to, stuff that she was, sort of trying to explain, because there's obviously so much to explain to her, so much, somebody's totally new to it. I was trying to take it all in, but like I say, it just spelt out so, and it was so reconfirming. It felt so supportive and yeah, like some sort of a warm hug, do you know what I mean? It was like kind of really, really powerful, empowering, yeah. Um,
Yeah,
and that, like you say, that's so lovely to think of it as an equalizer, and that you sort of think, yeah, well, that's exactly what patriarchy doesn't want, is for us to
no,
all
no.
have access to all parts of us, isn't it? Your full truth, as it were.
I know.
Um,
We could be teaching this in schools.
yeah,
Why aren't we?
yeah. Oh no, and that's what came out. So it's like, oh my God, I need to, understand my daughter's chart. And then, no, she needs to understand her chart. Do you know what I mean? And it was like this whole sort of like that idea that you have that awareness and self-mastery, isn't it? That
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and yeah, exactly like you say, that is one of the first things that came to me was like schools. This is where we need to
yeah,
be, sort of
yeah.
how empowering that would be. Really,
Amazing.
really exciting. Yeah,
No.
it
I
would
do
be.
think it's like I think it's one of the tools along with things like human design and gene keys and numerology. All of those tools put us in touch with our true self power, but also, I mean, astrology with your cosmic power, because
Mhm.
it's a different type of manifesting ability when you've got that lit up soul DNA switched on. I see it
Mhm.
in my clients when they've got a great structure of their business, they know what they're doing, they've got their mission. It's like they will literally come to me and just go, right, hit me with what's now and what's next, tell me what to say, how do I sell out this launch, let's go. And by being imbued with that cosmic power, it's shortcutting the time it takes to, when you're sort of pushing a cart uphill, that like
Mhm.
3D, just mental brain
Mhm.
ache. It's like we
Yeah.
don't need to do that anymore. We can just go, let's go. You know,
Mm.
you've already got this brilliant idea that's going to activate loads of people or do whatever is your mission fulfillment. You need to be in a place to serve your clients.
Yeah.
Therefore, if I can help you sell that quick, let's go.
Yeah, yeah, let's just take that, a shortcut sort of thing. And that's the other thing you're programmed to believe, isn't it? That everything's going to be hard work, that, you don't get anything for nothing, nothing's going to be a quick fit. Well, people are all looking for quick fixes, but I mean, that, like I say, sort of a direct route
Yeah.
to your purpose and your sort of full potential, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that. So I guess you also work in line with what times a year to do that, when you're kind of like, in terms of your chart, yeah, and when would be
Yeah.
good times to do different things within your business and
Yes, because the seasons of a person's life are different depending on their house arrangement in their chart.
yeah.
And then there's also the transits, and the transits are like, what is the current planetary positions and how is that affecting the individual? Because
Mhm.
sometimes a person will be like riding along, going really well, and then they're like, oh, what's happened? They're like, Rachel, what's going on? I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be Saturn. But
Yeah.
sometimes, sometimes a person will be going, I'm so confused, and they may have two really big transits going on in their chart at the same time. And it's like, I'm feeling these competing energies, what's
Yeah.
happening? And just being able to explain that can help a person feel like they're not taking everything on board. There is an energy that will be serving a certain purpose.
Uh-huh.
And it may feel intense and enormous, but just knowing about it helps you kind of go through that transition and take the lesson and the growth
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
going, am I doing something wrong? Because it's a different
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. As you like, kind of, it's like knowing the weather, isn't it? Almost, or
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And then, yeah, and you work with that rather than, yeah, kind of questioning everything. And yeah, um, but yeah, I mean, I will go into all the bits when I start to hear about like your North Node and stuff, and I was sort of thinking, oh my God, that is so exciting to think that's that there's you could have something mapped out in terms of what your sole purpose is for
yeah,
this lifetime sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah.
um
Amazing.
I can see how your work can really yeah, sort of be. It's just like having just another skill set and a tool bag, isn't it, that we're not, yeah, kind of given access to, I suppose, unless you kind of
Yeah,
got the
yeah,
openness to it.
yeah.
But it's
And
fascinating.
I do think it's a lot about just helping people come into that cognitive openness of what it is, and there is nothing scary. And I do actually, I really value the fact that you've allowed me to speak about these like ancient things that might seem so non-contextual, but I believe they're so important for how it's just fed down
Yeah,
and like tumbled into our psyche
yeah,
now unconsciously.
yeah, yeah,
And by freeing ourselves up, we go, oh, okay, what? So I can have as much power as somebody else. Let's go.
yeah, yeah. Hierarchy, what hierarchy? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and it's when I like kind of with my fascination with, masculine and feminine energy, it's all like, sort of like this is obviously, hugely in this sort of feminine realm, as it were. And then it's like having that openness to it, isn't it? And then, like you say, sort of welcoming it. Yeah, like I said before, it goes back into that bit of all parts of you. And that's how I see, yeah, that you need to have the openness. To welcome in both energies, to allow you to sort of weave between the two, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right, because it's actually totally based on like scientific and numerical data, which is very left brain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's the planet, so like they're moving in their way. They're not going to radically change.
Yeah,
Mars isn't going to suddenly go into a different
yeah,
galaxy.
yeah.
We actually know we've got this predicted. We know what's going to
Where they're going
happen.
and what they're going to do. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's even easier than the weather forecast, really.
That's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. Brilliant. Right, but yeah, can I will put down in the show notes where where people can find you and that your links, so I'll make sure that everybody's got yeah, sort of access to your work sort of thing.
Thank you.
But yeah, I've really enjoyed sort of chatting with you, and I'm really grateful for you coming on.
I have,
So
thank you.
really interesting. And yeah, we've got a long way to go, but I do think yeah, we're on our way.
Definitely.
So thank you very much. There we go. I'm going to stop recording now and find the right button. There we go.